Right, boys and girls, good morning. I hope that you are all doing well and that you are healthy. Today, we will start looking at the second part of our Munich Agreement and what happens after the events that we discussed before. So, just to recap, what we know is that the Anschluss was completed in 1938 between Germany and Austria. And then, as we know, Hitler started looking at Czechoslovakia, and they were forced to give up parts of the Sudetenland. However, after the British and the French agreed to give him the Sudetenland, parts of it, he decided no, he wanted more. So, now by the 29th of September, Hitler, Chamberlain, Daladier, and the Italian dictator Benito Mussolini meet in Munich. And this was a last minute effort by Chamberlain to avoid the war. He proposed that a four power conference, this means Britain, France, Germany, Italy, be convened immediately to settle the dispute. Hitler said, okay, fine, I will go to the meeting with you. And by the 29th of September, they met in Munich. Then by October the 10th, Czechoslovakia was told by Britain and France that it could either resist Germany alone or submit to the Germans taking some of their territory. And the Czechoslovakians obviously didn't want to do it, but they had to, and they chose to submit. And here is a picture from the conference itself. As we can see, many happy smiles and people just generally being ecstatic about how well things are working out. As we can see, here we have Chamberlain, very, very happy. Daladier from France, very happy. Hitler, even though he should be happy, isn't. And Mussolini and this guy, obviously, they're looking at other things, and they've got a weird guy over here. Don't know who he is. This is a picture then what happened after the Munich Agreement. Here we see Neville Chamberlain over here, and if you look in the background, we can see this is obviously an airfield, right? Here is an aeroplane right here. This is him holding up the paper that said Hitler will stop expanding, right? So after the Munich Agreement, Hitler signs a paper and he says, I promise I won't do anything bad again. And Chamberlain is super happy and he flies back and he shows people this paper. So later that night or that day at number 10 Downing Street, as we know where the British leaders live, he says, my good friends, for the second time in our history, a British Prime Minister has returned from Germany bringing peace with honor. I believe it is peace for our time. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Go home and get a nice quiet sleep. So at this point, Chamberlain thinks that, as we can see it here, he believes there would be peace, right? Hitler signed a paper, everything will be fine. But as we know, that was not the case. And here we see a couple of opinions about what happened after the whole thing and the Munich Agreement. The Czechoslovakian foreign minister at that time said, and he said this, remember, we have to remember who he's saying this to. He's saying this to the British and the French. If you have sacrificed my nation to preserve the peace of the world, it will be the first I will be the first to applaud you. But if not, gentlemen, God help your souls. So, what he's effectively saying here is he says, I have sacrificed parts of my country to keep world peace. And if this works, I will be the first one to congratulate you. But if this fails, he says, God help your souls, meaning they will be harshly judged for their actions. Winston Churchill, now this is the guy that comes into play after Chamberlain. Winston Churchill never liked Chamberlain at all. He said, you were given the choice between war and dishonor. You chose dishonor, and you will have war. Very simple. He said he had two choices: this appeasement, which is dishonor, and war. He chose appeasement, so now he's going to have appeasement and war. As we know, this turned out to be right. Now, Franklin D. Roosevelt of the US, which didn't want to be part of the Second World War, they tried everything to stay out of it. He said, appeasement is the policy of feeding your friends to a crocodile, one at a time, in hopes that the crocodile will eat you last. That should be very obvious to everybody, is that appeasement is basically feeding the bully and hoping that he will get to you last. So looking at some other opinions here, we know political cartoons are very powerful tools for the historian in a way to look at messages that was communicated in the past. Here we see Chamberlain and Mussolini. And they are two very, very different figures staring at each other. Here we see the difference in how they are dressed. They should be clear from the start. He's wearing clothes like a Roman legionnaire, or a centurion rather. And Neville Chamberlain is in his gentleman's clothes. He came with a stick, a walking cane or umbrella, and his hat. He came with armor, helmets, a sword, and a shield as they stare each other down over Europe. And here we see also the word Mars written on his helmet. Now, Mars was the Greek god, the Roman god of war. So it shows here clearly a warlike person that's ready for war, and Chamberlain that is not ready for war, and they're staring each other down. Now, this one on the right is more important to me in terms of how it shows what appeasement is all about. Here we see Winston Churchill just looking at what is happening in the background. He was famous for smoking his cigars. And here we see the big, hungry rat of Germany that's being fed Czechoslovakia by the British. And as we can see here, Czechoslovakia will never be enough. It's too small. It will never be enough to feed this rat. It won't work. Now, boys and girls, that is it for today. From tomorrow, I will be assigning some reading for you, and from there on, we will also be doing a political cartoon analysis of appeasement or something about during that time. You will have to see what's going to happen. I hope you guys have a lovely day, that you all stay healthy, follow the guidelines from the government, wash your hands, and stay isolated. I hope you guys have a wonderful day.